So today I'm going to have a look at refurbishing these chairs. I've had them for quite a few years. I really like the look of them, but they're quite old and they look a bit tatty. But I think they're worth, for me, I think they're worth saving. So I think they're historically, I think they're bistro chairs from France, but I think they'll look really nice when they're finished. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and strip them down and probably take them apart. Taking them apart, if you take something apart, it's going to be easier to finish it because there won't be bits that get in the way and other bits of timber. So try and unscrew it. As you can see, just taking it really easy. And if something feels like it's going to break, then it probably is going to break, so stop. And then you'll just have to sort of weigh up the pros and cons of leaving it together and getting a better finish. But anyway, as you can see, I stripped these down, it all came apart and it all went into pieces. So for me, that was absolutely ideal. Then you want to sort of inspect the finish. Well, you probably already should have done this, but inspect the finish and see how much you want to do as least as possible, but you also want to finish it and make it look absolutely wonderful. So have a look at it, see what the quality of the timber looks like, see what the quality of the finish looks like, and you can make a judgment based on that. When I looked at these, I thought, right, the finish is all flaky. It would be virtually impossible to patch it up. So I decided I'm going to just strip the whole finish off and start again. And obviously it makes good video, doesn't it? So if you're enjoying this video, then why don't you subscribe to the channel? I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers. It really helps me. Also, if you've got any comments, leave them in the comments below and I'll respond back to them. And in the bio, I've also put some links to the products that you might want when you're doing this. Okay. So stripping it off, I used various things to have a go, but really what you should be doing is start with the easiest and then work your way up. And you've got to try and identify the finish. So started with methylated spirits because I thought, okay, it might be shellac on there. They're old, and if it's methylated spirits, then it would just liven up the shellac and it would take it off. Methylated spirits didn't touch it, so not shellac finish. Then I tried some paint stripper, put some paint stripper on it, and in the end it was actually a varnish finish, and the paint stripper should have took it off. But the paint stripper that you get in the shops these days is a bit rubbish. So it softened it, but it wasn't great. Then I tried some acetone, and that softened it, but it didn't take it out. It sort of softened it. It took some off, but it left some in the grain. And if that was the case, then when I come to refinish it, then it's going to affect the finish. So the acetone was no good. Next, I had a really bright idea. So read a few books on this over the years, and they say get some caustic soda, and caustic soda will get absolutely anything off. Now that is the case, that it will get absolutely anything off, but it's really it can be really damaging for the timber. So I had a little go on one of the pieces, mixed up some water and caustic soda, left it in a bath of that. And then it really darkened the timber. So what happens then is now you've darkened the timber, you've got to get it back to a light colour so it's the same as absolutely everything else. So then you can colour it to how you want it. So with the fact that I was going to have to reprocess the timber, and because caustic soda is very aggressive and it can burn your hands, then I thought, right, I'm sacking that off. No caustic soda. So what I ended up doing is because of the age of the finish, and because it was quite a thin finish, I was able to use a scraper. So I could use a knife, or you can make yourself a scraper from an old saw blade or something like that. Burnish it, sharpen it. And then you can just scrape everything off, and that will take all of the finish off, and it will take the finish off with a minimal amount of timber. So once you've scraped it all off, scrape, just go for it, and then just be as careful as you can, but make sure you get all the finish off. Then once you're finished, then you can start to sand it back. This is one of the reasons why it would have been better to use the paint stripper, but it wasn't doing very good. Is because once I scrape it off, now I've got to finish it with sandpaper. So because it's quite light, and because of the section shape, the circular section shape, which is quite easy to finish, I've started with, instead of starting with an 80, I started with a 120, then I went to a 180, and then I did a coarse wire wool finish, and that got me a finish that I thought I could work with and start to refinish. So basically just get all the pieces of timber and just go through that process of 120, 180, coarse, and then that should get rid of all the old finish, should get all the timber looking sort of uniform, and it should be ready for you to go on to the next process. So as you can see, looking at the timber, it's quite light, and I didn't want this to finish as quite a light finish, and I think the to be sympathetic to how they looked in the first place, I think you need to darken it. So I've got some Van Dyke crystals, mix those with water, put a little bit of water in, a little bit of Van Dyke crystal. I think the more water you put in, then the lighter it goes. But what you can do with the Van Dyke crystal is that you put a quick coat on, as you can see, and then if it's not dark enough, put another coat on, and it gets slightly darker, and it gets slightly darker, and it gets slightly darker. So once you're happy with the darkness that you've got, then what I've done is I've just given it a thin coat of boiled linseed oil, and that gives it starts to bring the colour and the depth of the timber and the grain. It really makes the grain start to pop. So that's what I've done. So once I've done that, I've sanded it. I've put the Van Dyke crystals to colour it. Put a little bit of linseed oil on it. Left that to dry for a few hours or something like that. Then what I can do is what I'm going to do is going to go for a bit more of a traditional sort of finish. I'm going for some shellac, which we've used before on the channel, so use the shellac. I go for just keep on putting it on until you go for thin coats. Put it on until it looks glossy. In this case, it took 3 coats and it looked really glossy. So in between each coat, just quickly wire wool it down, take all the nibs off, and then do it, and then put another coat on. And what you'll find is that the coats will dry within about 10 minutes. So just coat on, nibs, coat on, nibs, coat on, and then what you'll see is that it will be glossy, and quickly just nib it all off and everything, and then then that is your shellacking done. Right, and then the final thing for this is obviously these are chairs, no need for French polishing. So the way I'm going to finish these is apply some furniture paste, just a standard wax. As you can see, it doesn't really make any difference, but it's a clear wax. Get some quad zero wire wool. And just dip it straight into the pot and put a thin coating on, just a nice thin coating of furniture wax. Apply it all the way over and just rub it in, and then leave it for a couple of hours, or leave it till it's gone off quite well. If you try and finish it too quickly, so you put it on and you try to buff it out, it'll just smudge and smear and everything like that. It won't look great. So wait. And then when you've waited a couple of hours, it's not so tacky, then just buff it out with a microfiber cloth, and then you'll get a really beautiful finish. As you can see, it's a lovely finish. And what you can also do with the furniture polish is periodically just add another coat, again, piece of cake, and then you're finished. Right, so as you can see, with this
chair. The seat is a cane seat, so it's a hand woven cane finish. Again, it's quite a straightforward thing to do. You just need to get the right size cane. What I would do is, obviously, before you cut it out, take a photograph of it, and then when you are putting it back in, you can see exactly how the cane was meant to go in, and you'll get a replica of what it was. So for me, this was two strings on the vertical wire, so double strings all the way on the verticals, and then double on the horizontals, woven in and out of each other. Those are the easy ones, and then there are diagonals in both directions. So those take a bit of time. But if you just expect it to take a bit of time, and then just go with it. Once you've got your horizontals, once you've got your verticals in, you've got your horizontals in, you've got your diagonals in, then just finish it all the way around with a string, and then cut all the bits off. And when you have finished, what I did with this, I just gave it a quick buff up with another coat of wax. And if you have a look at the start and the finish, I'm really pleased with the way that these came out. These are absolutely stunning, and I'm going to finish the rest of them all off. Okay, right. If you've enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Absolutely wonderful. Thanks very much. Have a great day.